are some practical ways that citizens or shareholders can invest into our community?
One thing I would say is getting on board with our Love Local campaign.
Okay.
Love where you live. That's really important to us. We're trying to focus on the positive that Americus has to offer and combat that negative perception that kind of goes around sometimes.
Yeah.
And that would be really important, as well as downtown cleanups. We try to host downtown cleanups, and we need as many volunteers as we can get whenever we host those.
Welcome to the Americus Podcast, where we pursue what it means to become a next level neighbor, creating a place we enjoy with the people we love. My name is John Schroeder, and today I have our guest, the Main Street Director, Qaijuan Willis, and also our downtown program coordinator, Jennifer English. Thank you all so much for coming on the podcast with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So we are doing this new thing where we have two new guests. And so you guys work together downtown. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're also going to talk a little bit about just you as individuals as well, to get a chance to get to know you a little bit better. And then we're going to talk about collaborating downtown and all the things that are happening and things that we can get really excited about. And me, just as a citizen, as a member of this community, how I can be more involved with what you guys are doing as well. And so we got a jam-packed podcast. And so we're going to do it all really, really well in a really good time. And so tell us a little bit as far as your roles. Can you describe your role as the Main Street Director and you're as the Program Coordinator?
Sure. So my role as the Main Street Director is sort of twofold. So I'm the Director of Americus Main Street and also the Downtown Development Authority.
Okay.
So both organizations are housed in one department. So my job is to oversee all of the major projects, our boards, our committees, and just making sure that that overarching view of downtown is going well. Resources for businesses, all sorts of things. We always say you never know what you're going to be doing on any given day.
Yeah. I was about to say, it sounds like you have a 24/7 job. You don't get time off.
And you have to know a little bit about everything.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, I'm the program coordinator for Americus Main Street, so I am in charge of all of the programs. That includes all of the events that we throw. We throw about 20 events a year.
Okay.
And I am in charge in planning and implementing those events. And anything that is related to the programs downtown. So there's several different things as far as the Downtown Dollars program, Lenny's Market, the Love Local campaign, and I'm just kind of responsible for promoting the downtown and getting foot traffic in the area.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds like a lot of programs throughout the year, and I know that each of them take a lot of time. And so every month you're just rolling over and saying, hey, we were heroes last month, but we're zeros right now until we get to the next program
Right.
doing well. So thank you all so much for the effort that you put in. I'm pretty sure you get many calls, maybe a few calls that are like, go get it, let's go. And maybe even some calls that say, hey, what are we doing? And so thank you all so much for just standing in the gap, helping build Americus for us as citizens, but also just for you as you love Americus as well. So let's talk a little bit about your working together. Now, a question that I would love to ask, even when I have friends and colleagues, is how do you introduce yourselves or introduce your each other to people that don't know you? Say, yeah, tell me a little bit about Jennifer. How would you introduce her?
I would just say, this is Jennifer English. She's our program coordinator for Americus Main Street, and she just started, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just kind of, here she is.
Yeah, kind of same.
Yeah.
This is the director with Main Street, and yeah, I'm learning all of my things through him.
That's awesome. All right. Well, what project or maybe a particular need that you worked on together or a training that has kind of helped build trust in one another since you're working together? Do you have like an experience where you've gone out to a trip or anything like that that's been helpful for you?
I would say as far as building the trust in Qaijuan and him being the director, he started out in my position, which I think is a huge benefit for me because he knows all of the ins and outs and he is very helpful in that, having that knowledge. And so, yeah, he's very helpful in making sure that I have all that I need to be able to do my job successfully.
That's good.
Oh my God.
I know, right? Put that down. Put it on a
swear.
T-shirt.
Right. I'm glad this is being recorded.
Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome.
But I would say just, even with Jennifer only being with Main Street for a year and a half, just being able to see her understand Main Street more. Because I think sometimes people can look at Main Street and say, oh, they're just event planners or they're party planners. But no, we are deeply involved with economic development for the downtown and even for the city as a whole. So to be able to get her to the Georgia Downtown Association Conference and to the National Main Street Conference and even some of our regional meetups where we tour different, cities in Georgia, and to see her get Main Street, it's like, oh my God, my heart is smiling.
That's awesome.
For her to be able to quickly pick up on that and implement it when we get back to our own.
That's good. That's good. So when you say Main Street, it's more than just downtown. Can you kind of help me with that layer of what does that all involve when you say Main Street?
Sure. So Main Street is an approach.
Okay.
So it comes from the national level. So there's National Main Street, Georgia Main Street, and then local Main Street programs, which is where we come in as Americus Main Street.
Okay.
So we operate on a 4-point approach. So organization, economic vitality, design, and promotion. So organization is, how are you communicating your message to the public? How are you getting volunteers engaged? How are your board members engaged? Do you have any committees? Economic vitality is business education, business retention, recruitment, resources. Design would be the look and feel of your downtown. Do you have the right type of tree? How do your sidewalks look? I know we get a lot of that in Americus. We're working on that. But
there we go.
How does it feel when someone comes into your downtown? Do they want to stay? Do they want to linger for a while? How long do they stay? Do they bring their kids? Do they bring friends? Like, what are they doing when they come? Which leads to the promotions aspect of it, which is our events and programs and, entertainment, having the Rylander Theater and the Windsor Hotel and all those different organizations in operation helps us out tremendously when it comes to promotions.
Wow. So how many people do you all work with in a month span or in a week? Like how many contacts? How many people do you have to reach out to make sure that everybody's got their piece of the puzzle? What does that look like?
So interestingly enough, everything that he just mentioned, we actually have subcommittees for each one of those departments. So we have the economic vitality, we have promotions, we have organization, we have design, and we have subcommittees that we stay engaged with very much, and we meet with monthly to be able to keep all of that going. And we also have a very active board that helps with that too. And then we also have a very active DDA board. So we have a lot of people that we stay very engaged with. But then you also have our downtown merchants, which we try to stay as engaged as possible with and keep them updated with all of the information that's going on downtown. And then give us some other community partners. Like it's consistent.
But even considering all of that, you have 120 plus businesses.
Yes.
With 600, maybe 700 jobs in downtown alone. So that counts as people. Who we're engaging with, communicating with. We have 2 boards. DDA board is 7 members. Main Street board is currently 9 members. We have the 3 active committees: is economic vitality, design, and promotion. So they all have members who attend monthly meetings. And we have committees that are responsible for specific events. And our community partners like One Sumter, Development Authority, Chambers, so all of those organizations, plus we are a department of the city.
Wow.
So we have city manager, we have mayor and council, we have city department heads. So so in any given month, we are interacting with tons of people.
Wow.
And there's just 2 of us.
And there are 2 of us.
Yes. Wow, that is a lot. Well, let's go in a little bit and just get to know you on a personal level as well. And so I've got a few questions that I would love for both of you to answer for us. So one is more about just kind of defining yourself. How do you define yourself? And tell me a little bit about you. Maybe something of like the things that you value or the things that you enjoy. And then even if you have an example of that, maybe something that has been impactful to you. So, Qaijuan, do you want to lead us?
Sure. I would define myself as a leader naturally. And I think that comes from my involvement with my local church, which leads to my values of like God, family, and rest.
Yeah.
So although we have all these things going on, we do have to make sure that we stay connected with our families and making sure that we're healthy when it comes to mental health and physical health and all those different things to make sure that we can do what we do on a regular basis. But I would say God and family are my top two values.
Awesome. That's great. Jennifer.
Okay, I'm gonna have to reiterate all of that because I would say we're both very family oriented. So God and family are definitely the top of my value list as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thinking more in the future too. I think about like if you had to write, an autobiography about yourself, how do you want people to remember you?
I would probably say I would want to be remembered as someone who genuinely cared. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do, but how people feel about you is what ultimately they're going to remember, is how you made them feel. So I would just say somebody who genuinely cared about others.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. How you make people feel is what they're going to remember. So I would say I want people to remember that I was a very friendly person. So I could be dealing with a ton of things on my own, but if you say you need me, then I'm coming. I'm going to do what I can to help you and be there with a smile and just, looking at the positive in what can seem like the worst situation.
Yeah, that's good. We need more of that.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. What are people most likely to misunderstand about you?
I would say, and I have actually heard this from a couple of people, because I'm a thinker, I think people feel like I don't always have anything to add or any input, whether we're in meetings or just discussing a certain topic, because I like to take in the room first. I like to understand what we're discussing, what is happening. I have to process it all first.
Yeah.
So once I get done processing, I'll have a lot to say. But I think sometimes people think I'm a little more quiet. I will say I am an introvert. I think my job forces me to be an extrovert, but just that thinker part of me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I would have to say can be very direct. So I think don't do that. In my last position, I had to be very direct, and so I think that is something I'm having to learn how to be more. What's the word? Less direct. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. But I kind of am very sticking to the facts. Is very direct with people sometimes, and don't have all of the extra fluff. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Interpersonal.
If I could be more personable, there you go.
Yeah.
But
we call it cutting on the Southern.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because in the South, they want to know, how's your mom and them?
That's
right.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
But sometimes you're in a situation where it's like, okay, we don't really have time for that. We got to get this.
Right. So I'm having to relearn how to be a little more personal.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. I mean, even when you're trying to connect, you send an email, a text, even sometimes a call. But if you don't show up in person, they don't know it exists.
Right.
Because it's like, hey, I'm a real person. I'm like, yeah, I'm a real person too. I got a whole bunch of people, but but it's definitely important, to keep that. That's what makes us, Southern, it helps us do that. But no, I get that. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about just kind of helping us to collaborate together, again, as just members of our community. And so I'm going to ask a few questions, probably. As Jennifer pointed out earlier, there might be more Qaijuan to be able to better answer it, or Jennifer be able to answer it as well. And so I'll just let you guys pick and choose as it comes out. Again, I'm so new to the structure even of cities, and in every city is even structured a little bit differently. They might have the same positions or titles, but it may not be the same job description. And so as I'm coming in, I'm thinking, okay, who does what? How do I best communicate? I don't want to be calling Qaijuan when he's like, hey, listen. Appreciate the call. don't call me, call Jennifer, or vice versa, right? And so, but that's a part of us learning each other as well. So I want to go ahead and do a little bit of that. So talking about staying connected, what's going on? What are we excited about? What are some initiatives? It really involves two things. Number one, it involves me as a citizen or anyone else, making sure that we're continually making effort to stay connected to the resources, right? To the events that are happening, to the opportunities. I have to go and look for it. And whether that's, I've got to be a part of 4 different Facebook pages to help me stay connected. I need to do that, right? I need to make the effort because it's there, it's posted or vice versa. And so as a citizen, I need to be doing that, but also the sources also and the opportunities must be communicated clearly. So that's part of what you guys are doing, is helping to communicate clearly what's going on. So you're a part of making that successful as well. So I want to kind of start big vision first. Is can you share some successful community engagement initiatives or projects that you have implemented? This is more in the past right now. Like, what are you excited about? What can we celebrate?
Well, we're just internally, just speaking for me, I would say just being able to have consistent staff, to be able to communicate with, all of our merchants and our committees and board members and even the community at large, but implementing easy texting as a way to get messaging out faster, building our email list so that when there is an event coming up or there is an opportunity where we could use volunteers or collaboration, we could shoot that message out quickly. But and also managing our social media, which is a full-time job on its own.
Yeah.
But just making sure that we communicate that messaging and make sure it reaches who we need it to reach.
I got you. I got you. That's good. You got anything to add to that, Jennifer?
No, I think that's pretty
good.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the questions is, how do you know who you're trying to reach, what audience you're trying to reach? Because it can be so broad, right? That there's certain parts of the community that care about specific events. And now we want to do, like, First Fridays are awesome because they're just like, hey, they're really for everybody. Like, I know we've got our own programs going on, we've got our own events going on, but hey, can we all just get together like once a month and do something together? And so, but at the same time, when you're posting events, people are like, well, what about this one? What about that one? Like, how do you go about categorizing those things, whether on social media, obviously is a big part of that because that's what people see. But how do you go about trying to categorize events just in general?
Jennifer could probably speak to this a little bit more than I can, but just making sure that if the event, let's just say First Fridays, if it has a specific theme, then who would be more interested in that theme?
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is be effective in our communication just to make sure that we're reaching the broader community and not just a certain group of people. And I think, Americus has 16,000 people.
Yeah.
And we may see the same 300 or 400 people showing up to events consistently, which is great. And we appreciate that support.
Yeah.
But how are we reaching the other community members that don't know about Main Street? They don't know what events we host. They don't know that downtown is for them.
Yeah.
So just looking at what our objective is for that particular event, who we're trying to reach. For example, the beach party. We know that is for everyone, families with children, whether you can afford to go to the beach for vacation or not. This is for you. This is just to bring everyone in the community together to network and to meet each other and to just have a good time, and going back to the Love Local campaign, to love where you live.
Yeah. So if you were to say, so like you said, we got this core group of 300 people that are just like, hey, we're there.
Right.
We love what we're doing. So if we look at the broader scope, we say, okay, well, we got 15,000 people that are still being disconnected. What are some things, initiatives that you guys have put in place to try to broaden that? What would that look like? What do we need to do to reach the rest of the community?
I would say in our promotions committee, we're currently having discussions about a hype team, which is something we learned about from Newtown Macon.
Okay.
So the hype team is sort of an extended group of people or many Qaijuans and Jennifers that are in the community that can help spread the word about what we're doing and what's happening, because people reach people.
Yeah.
We can put it on social media. We can put it in the paper. We can put it in a magazine and send it to everyone's front door. But people reach people. So they're going to trust that you've had this experience. You had a great time. So I trust your recommendation. So I'm going to go to Sweet Georgia and try the hot turkey, which is the bomb.
Come on.
I'm going to go to Rosemary and Thyme and get the lamb chops that's on special coming up real soon. So, just you can tell it's around dinner time. So
That's right.
But just using our committees and our hype team and our board to make sure that they are as informed as we are, so that they can help spread the word and reach those folks in their communities, whether it be in church or their jobs or civic organizations that they're a part of, just getting them to help us spread the word.
I think that's most important because, again, there's only two of us. So we reach out as much as we can with radio, with magazines, with television, with commercials, with newspapers, social media, whatever. But again, that's only two of us.
Yeah.
So we use our committees as much as we can. We use our boards as much as we can. And we're trying to develop this team as well, which is part of our promotions committee, is kind of taking that task on to get this team developed.
Yeah.
To get more social media recognition from people who may not be in all of the events or on our boards, or that have a reach that they can get to that we can't.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's really important that we use the people that we have to be able to reach the community as a whole.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like, do you feel odd knowing, I mean, you guys are obviously in the hub, like you guys are getting the information, you're helping create the space and the environment. So you guys know everything about it. But do you ever feel like, what is that disconnect? Like, because people call you like, hey, there's nothing to do. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
There's something going on every month, at least, there's one thing. So do you feel that like, and what is their response to you when they say, hey, I didn't know that this was happening. I just missed that event last week. I didn't know it was happening. Kind of what is their issue or need? And how are you guys communicating that to them?
I would say we just, when we hear information like that, I think we need to do a better job of asking, how do you receive information? Because we could be putting everything on social media and they say, I'm not on social media. So we have to, which it puts a lot on us, making sure that we're covering multiple grounds. But just also making sure that we have a good business mix in our downtown district, making sure that we're appealing to the broader community, because we don't all like the same things, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
So making sure we have a good business mix in restaurants that are affordable and clean and nice, that people can bring guests and family and just enjoy a good time, and just making sure that the community knows downtown is for them, but we have to have what appeals to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which we do have to grow in that area, making sure we have more things that appeal to the broader community.
Yeah. And I would feel there would be so much, I mean, just, I don't want to say tension, but that's probably the best word of like prioritizing what needs to be, I mean, we've got a great event downtown, or we got some things going on, but we also have to do like, we want to make sure our streets are clean. We want to make sure that, everything's cleaned up. Like how to prioritize that must be very difficult. How do you guys try to, I mean, just each month, just try to prioritize those things? What does that look like for y'all?
Well, it's a lot of collaboration.
Yeah.
A lot of collaboration. We have several meetings. If it's event preparation, we have meetings with Public Works and the police department and any other part of the city where it's like, well, we need help. We need to make sure that this area is cleaned for this event. But because there are a lot of things that we need in order to be successful in our positions that we don't do.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you anything about water and sewer.
Yeah.
But I know the people who can.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we build connections and relationships with them and make sure that they can step in and help us to get the job done.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're also consistently walking the downtown and passing on information, to those appropriate city departments as well. Yeah. Whenever we see things that need some attention. But yeah, we have to collaborate a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
with our.
Do those organization or city people, like, do they feel like, oh, they're just the party people? We're busy, like we got all these things. You're like, no, like this is for you too. Like, no,
No,
we're not just going around like creating events. We're actually,
I think
we're
we
doing,
have a good working
Okay.
relationship with them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here they are, party animals. They're just
Yeah.
hanging out. No, that's great. That's great. Well, so as I mentioned before, I was just on social media and I noticed that there was an article that was going out about some city initiatives that were going on. I'm getting really excited. I saw a whole bunch of people just posting it. So tell me what that, was that you all? Was that part of what you all are doing? And if so, what is that? What are those initiatives? Because I think I heard there's 2024 initiatives. So can you explain a little bit about what those initiatives are?
Yeah.
Sure.
Good.
So every year, our board and committee members, we get together for an annual retreat. And we started taking our retreats to the next level in 2023. So we brought in facilitators that assisted us with what's called community transformation strategies, which comes down from the national organization, which is a part of our accreditation process, that you have to work toward one or more of these community transformation strategies.
Okay.
So in 2023, we started working toward what's called business activation and development. So we wanted to make sure that we're retaining businesses, that we're providing resources as far as business education, if you want to grow your business. And we do have people who are interested in selling business at times. So maybe they're retiring, they don't have any kids that want to take over, so maybe they want to sell it. But making sure that we have those resources in place to assist them or know how to connect them with the right resource. So we focused primarily on our businesses, and that is even for those businesses who are startups and looking to get started in downtown or even the city abroad, or city as a whole, just streamlining our starting a business process.
Okay.
Where do you go first? What is your first step to opening a business, and just making sure that we have that information readily available, whether we're asked in an email or on the street or wherever, that we can communicate this is the proper process to start a business in our area.
Yeah. And so, and you are over that area. Like someone would call you for a new business and say, hey.
Well, if they're looking to open downtown, they can call us. We get a lot of calls about available properties. I'm interested in starting this type of business. Where do I go? Who would I speak with? So we also have to know and understand the other departments of the city to know where to send them.
Okay.
Because you may need to start by getting your business license, or you may need to start with building an inspection so you can do what you're wanting to do in that particular spot. Because if it's not zoned for that, you need to know that ahead of time before you go get a business license.
Yeah.
So we're trying to communicate with building and inspections and finance and business licensing, just to make sure that we know how that process works.
Okay. You good with that, Jennifer? You like that answer? Okay. So part of the revitalization is helping start new businesses, helping maybe some businesses that may want to sell, like just trying to do that. What has been the over the past few months? How has that been going? How has that been communicated? Are businesses engaged in that right now? What are you excited about?
So we're excited just to get responses.
Okay.
Because for a while it was kind of touch and go with, what are you doing? We don't know what you're doing. Why are you doing this? But just even looking at vacant properties to get in contact with the property owners to make sure that the properties are staying up to code, because we are running into a real issue of where we're getting more calls than we have space for.
Yeah.
So we don't have readily available space for someone to open a business.
Yes. Downtown. Specifically too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the incentives portion of that has been a top priority for us. So we do have the facade grant that is available to downtown merchants to help with awnings and painting and repair work to brick, or all sorts of things to the exterior of their building.
Yeah.
But looking at other incentives like tax credits, making sure we understand that.
Yeah.
And any incentives that DCA has to offer. So we're trying to compile that list of incentives that we understand, number one, because we can't communicate what we don't understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we can, even if it's just having a list of those incentives and making sure they're listed on our website and that we know what they are, that we can connect those businesses with the right people.
I got you. So if someone walks downtown and say, I want to start a business here. I see that this is kind of vacant. They want to call you, and you're letting the owner know, hey, listen, there's incentives here. We want you to get engaged. Do you want to sell it? If you don't want to sell it, are you willing to help with the financial end of it? We can help supplement some of those things for you, right? Is that what you're talking about? Just trying to get them involved. Do you guys have a specific number that you want to see, like 5 renovations, 5 buildings, or is it just, we're going to keep going, we're going to see how many we can get?
Well, we started in 2023,
Okay.
and we gave ourselves until, I think, 2025.
Okay.
But we wanted to see at least 4 buildings rehabbed.
Okay.
And 4 new businesses come in.
Okay. Where we at?
And in 2023, we had 9 new businesses to open.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we have reached our goal for building rehabs just with Jackson Street alone.
Okay.
So with Scoops coming in, the Spot coming in, and Butch Cusack renovating his property with the Growler Shop.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
South Fitters coming in. So we have exceeded that number of building rehabs, but we're also looking at, was that lofty enough? Should we have said more than 4? So we're carrying a lot of our 2023 goals over to 2024
to kind of see where you guys end up,
to kind of see where we are. And if we accomplished it quickly, was that just like luck and the grace of God, or is it?
Well, it seems like there's a lot of momentum. I mean, I moved here 2 years ago, and I feel lucky in the sense that as I've moved in, there seems to be a wave that's happening. So that's exciting. I know people that have been here for 20, 30 years that have been looking for something like this to take place. And so it seems like this is a good season for that. What I was also going to ask about this particular, I think it's called the Allison building right across the street. What's going on with that?
So with the Allison building, they are renovating that property for some additional downtown apartments.
Okay.
So they're adding 12 total, 6 on the second floor, 6 on the third floor. Okay. And on the first floor, there will be a common area for those apartments on that first floor area. And I think 4 spaces for retail shops.
Okay.
To open.
That's great. That's great. And that's just preparing for whatever retail shops want to come into that.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Which we have to look further into the future to look at, is there enough parking back there?
Yeah.
What do we need to do to make sure we can accommodate the growth?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of growth happening.
Yes.
That is causing problems, but they're good problems.
Yeah, that's right.
It's things that we didn't have to worry about trash or worry about parking because the buildings were vacant.
Yeah, that's right.
So now that they're occupied and they're getting business, they have more trash, they have more foot traffic, they have more parking. So we're having to look at that now. And something the Downtown Development Authority is looking to do is to have a parking study done.
Yeah. So
we're looking to collaborate with GMA, which is the Georgia Municipal Association, to have that study completed.
That's good. That's good. Well, when we're talking about these projects, right? Big, small, within the city, downtown, obviously it has to deal with money, right? Time, people, right? All of that stuff, right? Everything trying to happen at one time. How do you overcome budget constraints or resistance to change when it comes to these new projects that are coming in? How do you guys deal with that?
I mean, for our events and things with budget constraints, we really depend on sponsorships. We also look at different grants that may come available. I think Qaijuan works on that. He's working on quite a few right now, actually. But yeah, he works very hard on getting grants and things and sending in for those. So that would definitely be the budget constraints. Yeah. As far as the resistance to change, you're always going to have people who don't like change. I think it's our job to kind of get the information out there as to why it's a positive change. but you're never gonna. I mean, there's always gonna be people who don't like change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But another thing that we do is we try to be really good stewards, because we are fully funded as far as our Main Street budget.
Mm-hmm.
We're fully funded by the city.
Okay.
yeah.
So we try to show this is what we're doing. This is what we can do when we have the funds to do it. So like Jennifer stated, if we're not able to do something out of our own budget, then we can look for different grants or different opportunities to possibly collaborate with different organizations. Like locally, the Charles Mix Foundation assisted us with some funding to do some renovations to Rylander Park. And the Americus Rotary Club applied for a grant and also added some additional funding to that project. So now we have extended green space, additional trash cans, lighting. So I mean, that showed that, well, we didn't have $70,000 to put into this park, but it needed some improvements.
Yeah.
So we reached out and got in contact with some community partners and said, this is what we want to do. This is what our plan is. Would you support it?
Yeah. Have you ever had an instance or situation where a project or a program gets stuck, and how did you deal with it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the number one project that is on my mind now is our downtown streetscape.
Okay.
So we are desperately needing to take a hard look at our sidewalks and adding some bump outs to slow down traffic, which was a part of our Renaissance Strategic Vision and Plan that was completed back in 2015.
Okay.
So we're now wanting to look at that plan because there are a lot of things that we can't take on as an organization, but we can influence that, or we can pass it on to another organization and say, well, this probably fits best with your organization, not ours.
Yeah.
But just, it's been a while, but we have made some progress. So since that plan, we were able to do a traffic study, and that traffic study was funded by One Sumter.
Okay.
So we said, hey, One Sumter, we need help. And before we start anything, we need to do a traffic study. And Traffic Calming Solutions is a part of that RSVP. Okay. So removing a lane from Lamar Street was a part of that because it's a 3-lane highway. So we needed to slow traffic down, make it a little more pedestrian friendly. So we removed a lane and took it from 3 to 2.
Okay.
So that was able to happen with support of the City of Americus. So Mayor and Council was able to support us in that effort because DOT, Department of Transportation, reached out to us and said, hey, we're about to repaint and restripe Lamar and Forsyth Streets, basically Highway 280. So we said, oh my God, this is perfect timing.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can go ahead and remove this lane before they start this. Like while they're doing this, let's jump on board with this and let's get it done. So Mayor and Council supported that. But the actual sidewalk work that we're needing to be done with the trees and the bump outs, all of that's kind of stuck. And I think COVID had some effect on it because we were slowly trying to get certain things accomplished, even if it was just one thing a year.
Yeah.
But we're now applying for funding from some of our state entities, just looking to see.
So what slows down a project like that? Is it just that other things become a little bit more urgent, or is it because people kind of lose interest in it, or how does it go from a project a year to we're trying to get it back on just people's faces in a sense?
I would say the amount of funding needed, because we have designs done, we've got the study done. We just need the funding to start it and to actually do it. And we've received a cost estimate to do exactly what we want to do and what we heard from the community we want to see. It's about $3.4 million to do that.
Okay.
And we have since then looked at, okay, how can we get most of this done with $2 million, or what can we get done with $1 million, or what can we get done with $50,000? So we're needing to phase it out more. So we're taking another look at it to see what can we do in phases, even if we can't do the whole $3.4 million project at once. Maybe we can phase it out. We can do blocks at a time, just sort of Yeah, whatever it takes. And it's like that $3.4 million. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I heard, I might be mistaken, but they're trying to figure out a way to get maybe the larger vehicles even to go around Americus. Is that a good thing? Is that what? Tell me about that.
So we're wanting to get trucks to use the truck route.
Okay.
Which takes them around the city versus coming through downtown.
Okay.
The reason we want to do that is because of outdoor dining. Families are walking around a lot more now. They have small children. So we want to make it more pedestrian friendly, and the big trucks are scary for a lot of people.
But the roads are already there. We just need to point them in that direction.
Right.
Okay. All right. Just to be clear. All right. So we didn't have to like build around it or anything. And I also know that they're building out this bridge right over here on Lee Street. That's going to be like another year, something like that, 2 years.
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, another thing are the businesses and the investments that are already here, right? So you guys get a chance to connect with them. When they open up, you want to try to make sure that's visible, right? Is that a part of what you do as well? Is trying to make businesses visible, trying to make sure people are aware of things that are going on. Are there other departments that also do that, or is that mainly y'all? As far as just visibility, connections, as much as possible.
And as far as downtown, it's mainly us connecting them to the businesses and stuff, and getting them involved in our events so that they can be promoted through that and kind of get the foot traffic there. It's important to us to get the foot traffic in downtown so that they can see what we have to offer.
Yeah.
And we just hosted a ribbon cutting.
We just hosted a ribbon cutting last Friday at Kairos Pimos in the Maze. We do most all of the ribbon cuttings downtown. We send out the invites for that to kind of get the attention to those businesses when they're coming in and get that support.
Yeah. I know it's like as the businesses are here, they're like, hey, can you help me? And then at the same time, you're like, but if we can put some really nice streets out there, that's going to help you too. So it's like, hey, we kind of give and take, how do we work together? How can the downtown and promotion better support a small business that may feel, right? They may feel overlooked or exhausted by lack of visibility and support?
I think that's where we get our events involved. So if they get involved in our events, that's a big thing, because we do bring a lot of foot traffic downtown for the events, and we promote whatever they're doing during that event as well. The first Fridays and different events that we have throughout the year. That would be a good way to get involved. But yeah, it's important to us to get the people in downtown.
Okay. And then if they feel disconnected, they could still contact you directly and say, hey,
absolutely.
I'd love to do this.
I think it's really important too with our merchants. We have some merchants that have been here forever.
Right.
And they're very experienced in how to get people into their businesses and stuff. And so I think that it's really important for them to also kind of mentor our new merchants to help them out in that aspect too. So it could just be connecting the two. I think that would be really important and very helpful, because they're used to it. And we have some that are just kind of staples to our downtown. Yeah.
And it's great because a lot of our downtown businesses are very unique in a sense, right? So like I've heard that like Bougie Bottoms over here on this corner, it's like 1 out of 4 in the world. Like that's in Americus, which is really awesome. But then you have like you have the Maze. I mean, it's so unique, and Chuck, and you just get to see them, and you're just like, so you've got so many different businesses that have such a unique story that people won't just come for that, but actually come for being a part of the history of that. And so, I mean, again, even with Horn Pecan and, you got Cafe Cappuccino. I mean, there's so much history there. Sweet Georgia Bakery, actually. But there's so much here that we can continue to see. And so, what you guys do when you're promoting those businesses it's so valuable to them. And like you said, as events show up, the more we as businesses engage as much as possible, just let people know that we're there. That's really great. I was going to ask this as well. How can we bridge the gap between businesses in downtown to foster a more collaborative and transparent relationship? So what would that look like? what do you see are good tenets of that?
I think something that would help, I guess, specifying what the gap would be helpful. But I think having a merchant-run merchants association would be a tremendous benefit to downtown. We have in the past tried to host merchant meetings. We tried having them at different locations, but different people showed up every time we changed the location. But it also turned into, this is just the Main Street update meeting. But that's not what we wanted it to be. We wanted it to be where merchants can get together, and if merchants wanted to host their own event, go for it. We will fully support it. Like, what do you need from us to host that? They can share, like, hey, I'm having this issue and I'm having this problem, and okay, well, this is how we handled that. So just being there to listen to each other and give advice and help each other out. And like Jennifer said, we have some merchants that have been here a very long time and some are very new. And I think that Merchants Association, where they can get together more often, would benefit. And then it wouldn't just be, all right, here's Main Street to talk about everything they're doing, which is great. We do need to do that. But I think the piece that's missing is that merchant collaboration with each other.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, let's spend a few minutes kind of talking a little bit about maybe the future as well, but also just even on a practical level. I mean, like I said, we're talking about businesses and people investing. We're talking about just Main Street and downtown, but also just as citizens. I'm just a normal guy who just wants to be involved in our city. What are some practical ways that citizens or shareholders can invest into our community?
One thing I would say is getting on board with our Love Local campaign.
Okay.
Love where you live. That's really important to us. We're trying to focus on the positive that Americus has to offer and combat that negative perception that kind of goes around sometimes.
Yeah.
And that would be really important, as well as downtown cleanups. We try to host downtown cleanups, and we need as many volunteers as we can get whenever we host those.
Okay.
So
how often do you do those?
We used to host them like 3 times a year.
Okay.
But I think we're focusing more on maybe twice a year.
Okay.
Like one in the springtime and one around September. I think we normally do it really big in September.
Okay.
Because I think 3rd Saturday in September is National Cleanup Day.
Okay. Yeah.
So just trying to be a part of that, and which also helps us get that recognition.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Volunteers during events and things like that are always great. We also have our committees, which we like to have public involvement in. So anybody who would be interested in joining a committee, more than welcome to reach out to us about that. But yeah, can you think of anything else as far as involvement?
I would say, like John mentioned earlier on, is taking on the responsibility of making sure you know, making sure you're engaged, making sure you're involved. So as a citizen, if you want to be connected, make sure you're connected.
Yeah.
If that's coming by to see us and meeting with us on a regular basis, or we'll take you to lunch, we'll take you to Scoops, or we'll walk downtown with you, or we'll do, whatever we need, but just making sure that citizens know you can take on that responsibility of making sure that you're connected and you're in the know.
Yeah,
and we do try to keep our website as up to date as possible. And that's the Downtown Americus website. And our social media is also Downtown Americus. But if you're not on social media, that website's always great. And to stay in contact with these events and things, we do have an events page on that as well as information of things we've got going on. We try to do press releases as much as possible to keep people informed. So, yeah.
What about as far as like projects? So you just told me about the streetscape project that I haven't heard about. I'm like, man, that's awesome. That's exciting. Is there somewhere on a website or a page where it's like, hey, these are the projects that we're doing. This is kind of the cost, and we're doing them in this order, so that I can be aware and say, oh man, I want to give more to that. Or hey, or if someone's like, hey, what about our streets? I'm like, hey, look, it's right here. And so. Because I think as a citizen too, I'm like, hey, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the projects are. And that helps me to almost like just calm down and go, okay, it's coming.
Mhm.
It may not be the one on the list right now, but it is like number 3. So is there anything like that for someone like me?
Yes. So that Renaissance Strategic Vision and Plan that I mentioned earlier, that is linked to our website.
Okay.
But we also have our strategic work plans in our office. We haven't put them on our website yet because we're trying to figure out the best way
To communicate
include
that?
it on the
Yeah.
website. And just making sure that we can keep it updated once we get it up there.
Yeah.
Making sure we can communicate the progress. Or even if, like we talked about earlier, if a project is stuck, and letting people know this is why it's stuck, because they may have the answer.
Yeah.
Or they may have the connection with
that
someone
has the
that
answer.
we can get the answer to
Yeah.
get it back moving. But
And I think that will help too with just deterring some of that negativity of like,
Right.
hey, well, we said we're going to do this, and you just push the link. Like, go here, you can see where we're at, you can kind of see where we're going.
Yeah.
And that just kind of calms people down, like, okay, well, I didn't know that. Well, here it is. And so I think that's going to be super helpful for citizens as well. What has an everyday citizen done in the past that has significantly impacted you or the city? So maybe a story that would be helpful to say, hey, I could do that, just as a citizen.
I would say, I believe her name is Miss Poole. I think I was having lunch somewhere downtown with a couple of colleagues, and she stopped by and said, "Hey, Mr. Downtown." And I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And she said, "There are so many things happening and so many new businesses opening that I never know that they're here. Can you do something to identify that there are new businesses?" I was like, "You know what, Ms. Poole? Absolutely, I can do that." And we ordered a couple of huge banners or flags that it just said new business with the downtown logo on there. And we would stick it out in front of businesses when they open, that they could keep it for maybe a week or 2 weeks or maybe even a month if they needed it. Just
couple
to
years.
identify, right, because it takes that long.
Yeah.
So people passing by, they know, okay, well, that's a new business. We had a couple, we only ordered 2, and they got damaged during a storm. And they just, we have to replace those. But I thought it was like, oh my God, okay, so she is probably not on social media as often, not as in the know in these committees and engaged on that level, but something as simple as putting a sign out in front of a new business so that people riding by can know this is a brand new business.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful. If we don't know, we don't know.
Yeah.
So anytime anybody has anything like that they want to share with us, please do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know even coming just from leadership, there's so many things that you do know that it's not that it's being secret. It's just being sensitive to what's going on and just trying to be strategic the best that way that you know how. And people are coming with, or maybe a different perspective or direction that may be helpful, but it's the ship's too big to turn at this point, for a certain project. But knowing as leaders, the best that we can do is listen as much as we can and see what we can do next time to kind of help with that. And so just knowing that we have, leaders that would want to do that, because part of it's just as a leader, I'm just like, guys, like, just join in with what we already got. It's great. It's going to be great. But then part of that, like you said, is, I never would have thought about that. And then you reach a demographic or a part of the city that you didn't even know existed. Because that's the person who is kind of the person of peace for that particular area of town. So
and it caused me to kind of just take a moment to think about those smaller things.
Yes.
And we don't want to be so big picture that we forget the small things that really matter.
Absolutely.
And it helped me to think about how we need to be more intentional about our efforts in making sure that we're considerate of, people who may not always be as connected or as involved with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, thank you all so much. This has been a great podcast for me. I've learned a lot. I love being down here. I love getting the emails about the merchants and kind of what's going on. I need to get more involved. In fact, I'm working towards that right now of trying to figure out how I can do some things. I mean, I don't really have anything for people to come in and buy, but maybe we can even do some small, little clips where people can come in and do something for the podcast as well. But thank y'all so much. I know there's a lot of things that are going on, and if we had all the money in the world, there would still be something else that we'd have to do. But at the same time, I appreciate your humility, your desire to listen to people. And like you said, people have really great ideas. And if a business feels like they're lacking visibility, reach out. Let's connect as much as we can. And I think there's going to be ways that we can do that as we look through that. But also just as a member of the community, be involved as much as possible, say good things, point to the things that are happening. Yes. And if it's not here, start it. Just start it.
Start it.
There you go.
Right. If you think about it, just write a little plan, send it to Qaijuan.
There you go.
He'll help you shape it up, find you a business. Let's do this thing together. So thank y'all so much. Yeah. Thank y'all for coming on the podcast, and the best of luck to y'all. And we look hopefully to see in 2024, 2025, more businesses show up, more things happen in revitalization. And we'll have you back on with another 15, 20 businesses and a bunch of apartments and housing that's going on. So thank y'all so much.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. We did it. That was awesome. All right. We're going to take a quick picture together.
Okay.
For our season, we're actually, like I said, we're actually going to sit here in our chairs.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of look